Apparently a lot of people really liked that video. So here's 10 more obscure Genshin facts that you may or may not have known. Again, thank you so much for liking and commenting on the previous video. Now let's start. The login screen is the one thing most familiar to all of us. After all, it's the first thing we see when opening up the game. Genshin login screen have variations that can change depending on the time of day at which you log in. The different login screens are dawn, day, dusk, and night. But what you may not notice is that there's something seriously wrong here. Take a look at the dawn and dusk login screens, and you'll see that the sun is shining from the left side for both of them. According to our world's logic, shouldn't the sun rise and set on different sides of the sky? It's even stranger when you consider that the sun is on the right side in the day login screen. This has been in the game ever since launch, and ever since learning about it, I've been going absolutely insane. Could this have been an oversight? Or...
The stars, the sky, it's all a gigantic hoax. A lie.
One thing I really like about Genshin is how much detail there is to the game, from the incredibly detailed art to the literal millions of lines of text. But what I find most interesting is the special attention they put into character designs, specifically the sounds. Almost all characters have their own unique sounds, like Shinyan's drum, Sino and Nahida footsteps sounds different from other characters due to not having footwear. Also, you could hear the difference in characters' clothes rustling, their shoes touching the ground as they walk and run. No wonder this game has such a big file size. Unless you're one of the many relentless players who have absolutely nothing to do besides logging into the game and slowly losing your mind, then you may have never opened the archive. Basically, it's where you can see info on past stories, books, and the fact that these things contain the souls of children. Seriously, Kazuha, why do you need these for Ascension? Anyways, if you go into the enemies and monsters section, you can see the kill count for all enemies on the bottom left right here, from regular enemies to weekly bosses. I wouldn't be surprised if this was the entirety of Conria's population. Speaking of the archive, one thing that's been bothering me is the fact that there's no entry for butterflies or fireflies. Despite being alive, they're only included in the item section as things we obtain when catching them. Meanwhile, crystal flies and all these other bugs have their own entries under wildlife. My guess is because butterflies and fireflies appear in the world as mere particles and don't really have models for themselves. One activity that not many people actually do is chopping trees for wood, since unless you've already finished all furnishing sets for those primo gems, there's literally no use collecting wood. That's only if you're not a teapot enthusiast. Only sword, polearm, and claymore users can cut down trees, since tiny arrows and elemental beams probably don't cut very nice logs. However, if you were to infuse your weapons with an element, it's a different story. You can't collect any wood, even though you are clearly striking the tree with a sharp blade. How is surrounding my weapon with tiny little elemental particles stopping me from getting some logs? Are all trees in Teyvat just immune to the elements? I suppose that means they're the only thing that's weak to physical attacks. Mine, I suppose. Speaking of collecting materials, surely one thing we've all done is mining for ore. And any pro should know that using a plunging attack or claymore character or geo character is far more effective than just using a plain sword or polearm. However, not all geos are created equally in this regard. While Zhongli, Navia, and Ito can easily break ore with their elemental skill, and I'm not counting Ningguang in this case since he has basically no cooldown, some like Goro, Yunjin, and Albedo don't really do much to these bigger ores using their skills. If we're speaking strictly about elemental skill, then Razor, an electro character, holds E, can clear ore about as effectively as Zhongli. I'm not taking into account elemental bursts here because, let's be honest, if you're going for a mining trip, then there's absolutely no chance that your energy is always full. We were all a newbie at one point, and we've all been utterly terrified of these rune machines simply standing up as soon as we get close. If you want to avoid them, Elemental Sight can help. Using it helps you differentiate enemies that can attack you from ones that are simply props. This way you can avoid getting close to them. But how close can you get actually? Well, there's this one rune grater near Devankata Mountain Statue of the Seven, and as you can see, it is very much alive. Usually you can aggro enemies from extremely far away as long as you can hit them. But you could get extremely close to this guy. How close? So close that you'd be shooting him from behind without engaging in a fight. If there were an award for most friendly enemy, this guy would win the gold medal. Never mind. Surely everyone watching this should know that Statue of the Sevens heal your character once you get close enough. But just how close can you get without getting healed? The answer is much closer than you may think. So close in fact that you'd practically be hugging the statue. As long as you're not touching the ground, you can get as close as you want without getting healed by the statue. So the healing range is much less of a sphere and more of a flat plane. There's one particular thing about playable characters that you may not have noticed. When you are close to any subject of note, your character will actually angle themselves to look at it. These could be harvestable items, interactable objects, or NPCs. What I wanted to highlight, however, is this new domain in the Nostar region. When standing before it, your character will look up at the domain door. This is odd since it's not the case for any other existing domains in the game, except for some trance domains, but even then your character would look down and not up. And it's not like the domain that we speak of is bigger or higher up. It's the same as all others. So I'd say this is quite a strange phenomenon indeed. Anyone who's been playing for at least over a year should remember that you can see the order of characters that you obtained in the profile selection screen. However, that was eventually changed. Although you could still view the specific dates when you obtained each character in the character archive, you can't sort them by date obtained, so what's the point? Well, there's still one place that displays the characters in order of which you obtained them, and that would be the Statue of the Seven. By selecting Statue's Blessing, you can see the characters are organized from oldest to newest to you, minus the characters in your party, who are placed separately just above everyone else. If you want to see the order of characters that you've obtained from oldest to newest, simply put only the Traveler in your party and you're good to go. And that has been 10 more facts that I've compiled together to make this video for you. Once again, thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something new, and